on this computer. Okay. All right, so if you guys open up the repo, it's the Bootstrap 4 and JavaScript on the ACM page. I'll send the link in here too. All right. I'm going to share my screen and scroll down just a little bit. We'll start off talking about the grid, and then we'll do a quick little exercise on the grid, just so you guys can understand. If you don't have Visual Studio Code or Sublime or some other text editor open, go ahead and open it. And if you don't have one, try to download one real quick. So this is the README file on the repo. If you're not familiar with Bootstrap 4, it's a Twitter-based, well, originally Twitter-based, now it's all open source, but Twitter developed it back about 10 years ago, and it was their framework of how they put together the Twitter site originally. And the guys who kind of developed it, they went a little bit beyond there and started using it in some other projects. And then they had a hackathon that Twitter sponsored, and they opened up this new kind of CSS with some JavaScript components and everything kind of tied together. And everyone in the hackathon just loved it, and everyone wanted it. So they released it to the public in about a year later. And I would say it's probably the most popular of the frameworks for regular CSS. There are tons and tons of them out there now. Some are premium ones, some are free, but this one, you know, I guess I like to think it started it all, at least in the modern sense. And as CSS has evolved, and when it became CSS3 a few years ago, they included what they call a flexbox into the framework for CSS, and Bootstrap kind of expanded on that a little bit, and they created their own grid layout. And to use that, we're going to have to add a couple of things to your index file to start off with. But let me jump over to a new share here. Get on my Visual Studio Code. All right, I'm going to open up a new file. All right, so we're going to start off with a HTML file in order to get this first exercise going. So in any of the modern text editors, they have a backbone system called Emmet that allows you to do a lot of shortcuts in HTML and some in CSS. So we're going to start off, if you're in Visual Studio Code, I know this works. We're just going to do that exclamation point, the bang, if you will. And maybe it's not working well for me. Oh, I know why. Have to make sure it's an HTML file. Go ahead and save the file and call it index.html. This is the second one for me, so I am not going to be using a second one. All right. Once it's an HTML file, now you do the bang and hit return, and it'll give you your HTML backbone. You give you your the tag for the doc type, give you your HTML tag to include the language for English. Give you your head tag with the meta tags that are required, surprisingly, for Bootstrap 4, both the character and the viewport width. And then the one part of the head file that's required, which is the title. So we'll go ahead and do this. I'm just going to call it Bootstrap grid system.
Where did you get the code?
So as long as you save that first file as index.html, type in a exclamation point or a bang, and just hit return, and that'll all come in. It'll self-populate.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean. All right.
Oh. All right, so we're going to have to add a little piece in here. Okay, so if you go over to the repo, let me jump back over to my. All right, and if you download this file or the folder here, assets, inside assets, I have already downloaded and then re-uploaded, I guess, if you will, of the Bootstrap backbone. So the CSS file is in this folder here, and in the JavaScript file, the JavaScript is over here. Right now, all we're going to need is a CSS, but if you just download that entire file and add it into the same folder where you saved your index.html file. I'm going to go back over to Bootstrap or to my Visual Studio Code. And in my head tags after title, I'm just going to type link and tab, and this will self-populate again. This is part of the Emmet feature that's built into these text editors. So I'm going to start with, since I have the entire folder in the home folder where I'm at, I'm going to start with the dot to make sure I get to the correct folder level. And then for me, I left it in the assets folder, CSS, and then Bootstrap. And so now that Bootstrap CSS file is attached to my HTML. So every time that I use a class attribute on an HTML tag in this file, it's going to automatically go back to that CSS file and find where that class attribute is located, check out the properties and the values that are listed underneath those attributes, excuse me, and then use those properties and values as it styles out our HTML. What I'll do is, because we're linking it here, everyone being able to keep up, following along okay? Robert, Jonathan, you guys are good? All right, okay. All right, so let's jump back to the README file over here, just so we get a quick understanding of the grid pattern. All right, So under the layout here on the README file, a little bit down, a couple of scrolls down, you'll find this cool little picture. Try to make it nice and bright for everyone. All right, so the way that Bootstrap kind of works on its grid pattern is everything first relies on the container class attribute. Now, if you were here last week, you maybe remember that Bootstrap has two different types of container class attributes. It has the container and then the container fluid. We'll talk about the difference between those two in a second, but that's the top, or the large portion of the grid system is the container. That's the biggest piece. Inside of the container, our next level is the row. And this, again, is just another class attribute. Usually both the container and the rows are usually used on a div HTML tag. However, because they're class attributes, you can pretty much use them on almost all HTML tags. There are a limit to exactly which ones you can use, and I don't have a specific list of which ones you can and can't, but suffice it to say that you can pretty much make everything a container, make pretty much anything a row, make anything a column, which is, the column is the next one down, and they go inside of the rows. Bootstrap has a 12-column set grid. Now, you as a developer, if you want to kind of mess around and develop your own grid, you can do more, you can do less, you can do 10, you can do 4, however you want. But if you're going to use the Bootstrap background, it's 12. You can do, as in this graphic here, you can do 12 separate columns across. You can do 2 across. Oh, I lost my 4. There was a 4 here when I built it. I dragged it and I forgot to paste it back. But there should be a 2, there should be a 4 here. Let me take, for this to work, this has to have a call 4 here, and then a call 6. So again, we have a 2, 4, 6 equals 12. And what you'll find is, for example, when we have this, change over here, this column here, which is 6 across, it fits the same width that 6 fit across. Okay. If it was 12, it would go the entire 12 span to the edge. And you'll see that you can see the row behind here, and behind the row you can see the container. This is actually how the system works. There is a space between the columns, there's a space between the columns and the row, a space between the row and the containers, and the attribute for that is called a gutter. And I think it's in this, let me get back to mouse. Yeah, the gutter width is 12 pixels. So there's always a 12 pixel padding around each of these class attributes. Now you can go ahead and add a second class attribute to a column or to a row or to a container and say it's no, put in chat here, no gutter. And that will take care, that will get rid of the gutters, and everything will line up on top, on the edges of all the other elements. Okay. Now in the third example here, we're using 2, let me get back to my, we're using 2, oh, I'm not drawing, why am I not drawing? we're using two class elements here to make this happen. We have the column width of 4, and then we have an offset of 4. So what we're telling Bootstrap in this case here is that the space where 4 columns would line up right here is going to be empty based on that offset. And we did that again here. So there's space for 2 columns here, and this is empty because it has the offset attribute and as well as the column 2 attribute. Clear this. All right, so here's a little bit of in-depth of how the grid itself works. All right, now I'm just giving you a quick overview of the big pieces of the grid layout. Now, you can also, well, let's talk about this. In today's modern web design, with the advent of cell phones, now web designers are pretty much obliged to create websites that they term responsive, right? And that responsivity, can't even say it, is the ability to take the browser width and shrink the browser width and have the browser interact with the screen size so that the user has a pleasant experience, whether it's on a iPhone 5 or it's on a 5K, 27-inch screen. Everything is kind of based on the pixel density. So what we do in web design to make our websites responsive is usually come up with certain breakpoints that we annotate in our CSS file, and we give different size properties and values for different screen sizes. All right, so here we have the 5 breakpoints that Bootstrap 4 has embedded inside of its main CSS file. So if your screen is wider than 1200 pixels, which is pretty much any laptop or desktop that you see on the market today, you're going to get the extra large screen size. Large, this is maybe, some of the smaller laptops, maybe, something smaller than a 13-inch, especially ones that are older. It's hard to find these now because the pixel density, especially on the Retina screens on the Apples, and then the OLEDs on most modern laptops now are at least extra large. So, but what you're finding now is on some of the more expensive tablets, like your iPad Pros and some of your Surfaces, you're going to end up in the large portion on your breakpoints. You're going to see medium size on the normal Samsung and Surface and iPads, and then small is usually your large screen, like your pluses for your iPhones, and then your notes for your Samsungs. And then, but again, because the pixel density has been rising on a lot of those phones, some of them might be in small these days and not necessarily in the extra small, where you're gonna, these days you're probably more on your old iPhone 6s, 5s, your and your can't think of the Samsung normal one. All right. So what we do to kind of make our grids work in the responsive or responsive way is, depending on what size text we're having or images within our columns, we're able to tell our columns by either making that attribute the call.xl-1, 2, 3, all the way up to 12, telling it to, if it's extra large, you can be a normal column. But if you go under extra large, for example, you're going to have to start stacking yourself on top of each other instead of being side to side, in order to ensure that the content within that column is still readable when it gets down to that small size. So a lot of designers now, a lot of the websites that I see are kind of breaking at the medium, but some are at the large. So what happens is, as you shrink your screen, and let me see if I should have pulled up a screen. When we start the exercise, I'll find a example and show you how it works on Zoom here. All right. So we have the 12 width. We have columns. So if we go down to extra small, it's just the call 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. However, you can use that all the way up. Just understand that as you shrink your browser size down, those columns are just going to shrink, because they're all set on the percentage of the screen width. They're not set on a width of a particular pixel width or a particular EM width. And in fact, last week we talked about the estimated measurements and the relative estimated measurements that we use for heights and widths outside of pixels. But because that tag that we have in our in that meta tag that we have in our HTML file, that viewport meta tag, that tells or that's set for pixel width. It's not set for EM or REM width. It's only set for pixel width. So when we do our breakpoints, that's why we set everything at pixel and not EMs, because it doesn't work correctly on EMs, because viewport can't read them. So everything gets kind of messed up. So if you are looking to say, hey, I want to style something really cool for, like a 4K screen versus a 5K screen, or just, a normal Retina screen that you'll find on like an iMac or something, you can set those breakpoints and have each screen look similar, but maybe a little bit different based on what the content is you want to show based on those breakpoints, if that makes sense. But we'll get to it. We'll get a little hands-on here in a second on that. Okay. So let's go back to our text editor. All right. So if we get, as long as we have that Bootstrap in, we're going to be able to start. All right. So what I'd like to do is see if we can't create our own checkerboard pattern based on the grid system, so we can kind of fully understand what or how everything should be put together. And what we're going to do is we're going to use only the class attributes that are in the Bootstrap CSS file, so we don't have to either do an inline style or make our own style sheet. So I did this earlier. It does work. So let's give it a try and see how it works. All right. So first one we're going to do, and this is another Emmet trick. So I'm going to start inside the body because like we last week, everything in the head tags goes, is kind of the backbone information for the website that, is usually used for number one, the browser, and then number two, for your search engines and all your search engine optimization stuff. And then everything within those two body tags, that's what's going to be depicted onto the browser screen. All right. So we want to make sure we start in the body tags. All right. So our first one, I'm going to type div, give a period, and we're going to start with the class attribute container. All right. So if we do this, and you type it just like that, and then you type tab, you're going to get the div with the class attribute of container. And that's going to be the first level of our grid system. Just going to give a little space here. All right, so everyone has hopefully seen a checkerboard or a chessboard. Everyone familiar with how many spots or how many squares are in a chessboard? Do you know how many across, up and down? Ooh. It's 8 by 8. So eight squares across, 8 down. So 64 total squares. So we're going to create 64 total squares. Now, we are going to have a little bit of an issue because how many squares, if we think of it that way, does the Bootstrap for our grid system have? 12. Good job, Jesse. So we have to figure out what we're going to do with those extra 4. All right, but let's start out. All right, so under the container, we need to have a row. So in order for our columns to work correctly, they have to be embedded into a row. All right, without the row, the columns don't work. It's just how it works. So we're going to go div again, a dot, and we're going to just type row, give another tab. Another hard return here. Okay. So we have a container, we have row. Now we have to have our columns. Okay. Now we're going to do another cool thing here. Again, we'll do div, the period. We're going to go call. All right, we're just going to go one across, and we're going to do an asterisk, and then since we know we're going to have 8, we're going to start with 8 because we're going to play around a little bit with that offset property and see if we can't make that work correctly for us. So we're going to do 8, and when we hit return here, we're going to get 8 elements of our column -1. So it kind of makes it a little bit easier to start styling everything out. All right, so I'm going to go back over to my browser. We're going to go over to the Bootstrap 4 page. All right, and I'm going to click on documentation here so I can get the search. And in search, I'm going to search colors. All right. So here are all my colors for all of the properties and values for that are located within the Bootstrap CSS file. All right. So these are our class attributes. All right, and let's go right in here. I hope this works. All right. So this is our CSS file, and these are all the class attributes that Bootstrap supports. All right, so let's go back to our Bootstrap page. All right, so what we're gonna need is we're gonna need something that's dark. So these are texts. We need to find a, all right, those are links. Background colors, all right, we need black background colors because we're going to tell the div element to have a background color of a certain, certain color. So there are 3 colors that are typically used on a chess checkerboard. That's red, white, and black. Or you could, on a chessboard, it's usually just white and black. Checkers has the red because the pieces are usually red and black. So first one we're going to start off, we're going to start with the BG dark. All right, I'm just going to copy this over right now. I want to go over to our CSS file here. So I can see it. I'm going to stick that in. Okay. So this is the class attribute in the file, and this is on line 6765, and it says our background color is this hex right here. All right, so if you're not sure what the hexes mean, I'm going to come over here. And if you go to color.adobe.com, let me paste that in there. You can just paste it in one of these files. Oops. That's what happens. Go back and paste that again. So this is our dark color, okay? Now, there is no black that's set in there, so we're gonna have to use the darkish gray. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back to our Visual Studio Code, and we know that this is a class attribute, and the name of it was BG dark, BG-dark. So right next to, we're going to get our cursor right next to column 1 in that first spot, and we're going to give a little space, and I'm going to type in BG dark. All right. So I would tell you can go look in the browser and you can see everything change, but you're not going to see anything change right now because we have not told our elements to have any width, to have any height, or anything right now. The only thing it knows that container is as wide as it's able to be on your particular screen. So all you're going to see is white right now. So we have to kind of fix that to give ourselves a little bit of height and a little bit of width onto our into our elements. All right, so let's go back to our Bootstrap page. Let's go width. Take equal width, calls, new. I'm gonna go, I know what's called. Okay. All right, so this is not really the page I want. Here. Vertical line, stretch, text, display, lines. Oh, sizing, here we go. All right, content sizing. This is where we want to be. All right, so we have other class attributes here that allow us to have set particular width. All right, so these are all done on percentages. So if you do a W100, it's going to be 100% width of what it would expect to have for content within inside that element. So if you have a image and you say you want it to be width 100% and it's inside another div, another element, it's going to go out to stretch into that element 100% into that element, unless that image is smaller than the original size of the element. All right. So in here too, we also have heights. So W is width, H is heights. We have MH, maximum height. We have view widths for down the bottom here, minimum view widths and heights. There's no max here, so it's just the VH. Then spacing is going to be another big one for us. So spacing under utilities too is, this is where our margins are, and we're going to have to use some margins to make our elements actually have some depth. So we can use some margins. The other way we can use it is we can use padding. Padding's not going to help us in this case because padding pushes outside of the element. So the element shrinks down because of padding. The margins push the element out. So we're going to take, and what we need is we need a margin top and probably a margin bottom to see our elements work correctly. So let's go back to our Visual Studio Code. So we have MT and MB, and then a -1 or more. So, and that's going to give us to 0.5 eames, or is that? Yeah, I think those must be eames. So we're gonna probably use like a 3. Let's see what a 3 looks like. All right, so let's go back to our Visual Studio Code. And in that first one, we're going to put in MT3, MB3. All right, so we just told the element to have a height of 3 eames and a margin of 3 eames top, margin of 3 eames bottom. So let's go ahead let's save that. Go to the folder where you have this file saved. And well, let's not do that because it didn't open up correctly there. We still don't have that height. We'll go back here. Let me see what I got here. Oh, PB. Okay. I take that back. I am wrong. We're not looking at margins. We want to do padding. We do want to push it out. So let's change it to PT and PB. And if you go and you open up your index.html file, I'm going to share my screen for this. So you can see right up here, this is our element. It's on the very top because it's where we told it to be. And right now it's kind of squished. So we're probably gonna need a little bit more meat on there, but we have our first element and it's there. So we can start building out the rest, all right? So let's go back to Visual Studio Code and we'll finish out this row, all right? So if you remember, our white was not white, but it was BG light, okay? So let's go alternate down. We'll go BG dark, BG light, BG light, BG dark, all the way down. I'm just going to cheat a little bit here. All right, now if we go and we save that file again, and we go back to our screen, you're gonna actually see you have the, let me clear this out. You have your black, you have your white, your black, white, black, white, black, white. All right, and you'll notice it's not centered on the screen because we started at the very left edge of the container. So we can easily fix that.
Hey, Leo, I had a question.
Yes.
I'm not getting mine to work. Can I share the screen with you again, and hopefully it'll be easy?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Now you
Oh,
can.
okay. Okay. Like last time. Do you want to, this will stop? Okay.
I'm gonna
Yes.
stop mine.
Screen. Okay. So I'm trying to get this to work.
Oh,
Mine is different, but I got everything else kind of the same. I'm a noob, I know.
okay.
I know.
So let's go. I have this.
es.css is right here, and it's in a file called a folder called do.
Okay.
And I was just kind of haphazardly doing this.
Put a dot in front of the backslash before do. All right. So go back. Erase what you have in there in the quotes real quick, and just start typing out the BS. See, it's okay. It's right there. So go ahead and click on it. You don't even need the folder.
And then I did that earlier, and it still didn't work. So here's index 2, and
Are you working on index 2 or index 1?
index 2 right here.
Okay.
It's index. Do you see it? Oh.
Okay. Container.
The title does say Bootstrap, so it is definitely the right file.
Right.
See, it says Bootstrap.
Okay. What browser are you using?
Chrome?
Chrome. Okay.
Should I use a different one? I don't know.
Go into the developer screen. You know what I'm talking about? F12. And click on elements. And then open up your container in the row. And click on, just hover or click on the first div class there. Yeah, so we should be able to see it highlighted on the screen there, but it's not.
It's always because I did something that wasn't the same. I bet if I did it just the way you did it, it would work. However you did it. Because you remember last time, right?
Yes.
So how did you get the files in the order that you did it?
So I just downloaded them straight from from there, so I didn't copy and paste. So
So
clone,
clone.
download zip.
Okay. Extract to, there you go. All right. And then what next?
So you can just go up one file up. Yeah, oh, sorry, you were there. Assets, sorry.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, copy the assets. No, copy the asset folder. Because we're going to end up using all that stuff, hopefully. And go back over to where you're saved where you have your exercise saved.
Okay. And like right here.
Okay.
And then probably move index 2 up if I can. Right. Okay.
Okay, now we're going to go back over to your style sheet.
Sheet right here.
Yep. And to the href, and you're going to get rid of the BS. All right, so now dot. Yeah, dot. And new. Sorry. Do it.
Assets maybe?
There we go. Yeah.
CSS, Bootstrap. Maybe it has to be named Bootstrap.css.
Oh, I bet it does. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'll make sure you save too. File, save all.
That's what happens when you don't do it exactly. Next to do. Anybody else knows? If anybody else knows what I did wrong, I mean, feel free to tell me. Be a dot. We did a dot on yours. There it is. See the dot.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, I will stop the share. I'm caught up.
All right. So let me get back over to mine. Let's go back up to mine here. All right. So we're back here. All right. So we already talked about that we have 8. The grid is 12. We're already stuck all the way on the left hand side of our container, so we need to give ourselves a little space. So I already talked about this. Our class attribute for that is offset, and we have 8. We have 4 extra columns that aren't being used. So to center our board, we're going to just offset 2. So we'll have 2 columns in the front, 2 on the back side, so that they even out. All right, and what I'm going to do too is I'm going to give my top margin. I'm going to push up to 4, see if I can just get a better space. Go ahead, save that. All right, I'm going to go back over to the screen.
Very nice.
And now it's centered. Okay, so now let's go. So as you can see too, all right, it worked. The other class attributes that are next to the first one that we have, let me go back to my Visual Studio Code here. So you'll notice in that first column, we set those paddings on the top and the bottom to be 4 and 3 to give it the depth that we were looking for. And you notice that every single one of them in the row, they all followed that same pattern. So that's one of the things that's kind of one of the ways that the CSS Flexbox works, is it allows us to have um, that relative sizing going down the entire row off of one element in that row. Okay, so we have this now. All right, so that's row one. So we're going to have to change this up a little bit. I'm just going to copy and paste our row number 2. All right, I'm going to change up so that this first element is white. Okay, I don't need that. I'm going to take the last one off. And then I'm going to copy and add another dark here. So I still have 8 elements across, but now I'm white and dark across. Just save. Go ahead and check to see what your page looks like. And it should look like you have 2 rows and they're offset. So everyone wants to see something like this. So go ahead and let's take that all the way down to the bottom. So let's do 8 total rows, and then we'll see what we get. Then we'll start working with the outside portions to make it kind of look pretty, I guess. I'm going to stop sharing. So go ahead and make the other 8 rows. It should be kind of easy now because all you have to do is take the 2 rows that you have and copy and paste them 3 more times. So hopefully you're copy and pasted and you got to this point. So we are 8 across, 8 deep. We probably need to put a little bit more spacing into those paddings. So let's go and we have 3, 4, and 3. Let's go ahead and change those the padding bottom, the PBs, to 4. You see if we get a better square. Now, of course, if we were using our own CSS file instead of just a Bootstrap, we could do this pretty easily by just setting it up with specific sizes. But I think we can probably still do 5-4 maybe. 5 top, 4 bottom. Okay, yeah, 5. So what am I? I'm sharing my screen. So if you do PT5 or PT-5 and PB-4 for your attributes, you'll get a better square. Let me get the chat up and I'll post those in there. I'm gonna go, let's share this up. Let me share. I'm just going to try to bring it off the top of the screen a little bit. So I'm going to, right inside the container, I'm going to do another row. This is going to be a dummy row for me, basically. I'm going to just do one call. I'm going to do call. I don't have to have a number. I can just do a call and I'll space it all the way across for 12. One of the nifty things that Bootstrap does, you can actually, instead of doing call 1 for all 12 or so, you can just do call. But again, it messes a little bit up with the media breaks, but I'm not worried about that. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to take the same class attributes for my size. And I'm just going to, I'll share this. And it's just a little style that pushes it down off of the top of the page. So I have a little space there, that's all. Okay. And you can change, you can kind of fiddle around with this a little bit too. So let's go. Let's go back to Visual Studio Code. Oh, I should have done that first. You go back to Bootstrap. You go colors. All right, BG danger is red. Okay, so I'm going to go in here. I'm going to use BG danger. I'm going to save this up. So I'm going to, what I'm going to do here is I'm just coloring the container itself red. So it shouldn't affect our background or our grid system, but it gives us a background. Now, kind of a border. So right now, as you can see, we have the two, we have a pen here. So we have a call here. Oop. It's hard to write here. I have a call here. Call here. And then I have one dummy row up here. So my border is a little off. I don't have anything down the bottom. So to kind of equal it up, let's do a second dummy row up on top, and we'll copy that dummy row and we'll paste it once more on the top of our checkerboard and twice more on the bottom, and see if we can't get a more symmetrical border. I'm going to share this out. I'm going to take this, I'll paste that there. Make sure I stay within my div. I'm going to paste here. Let's paste here. I'll save all. Go back to the web page. And now I have at least a symmetrical border. Now again, we're kind of constrained by just using the Bootstrap itself. We're kind of stuck with this. We can kind of, we could probably try to fiddle around with trying to put like a subdivs into like, you know, make specific squares within these divs and then kind of push them inside the columns and inside the rows, so that maybe we can do a smaller one. But I mean, this is kind of a general idea of what, you know, how the whole grid system works. It gives you kind of a good idea too, I think, of how you can manipulate it and stuff like that. So yep. Get back to mouse. Let me clear this out. Back to Visual Studio Code. All right, so I have a row, and then inside I have a column, just one column, just a call, and I gave it the same height that our other ones did, so it was, you know, kind of symmetrical. All right. All right, so we're gonna play now with a couple of the components of yeah, I can push out a copy of this and save it into the repository, so it's there. Okay. So we're gonna play with some of the components. So a lot of the components. Let's go back. I'm gonna go back to the Bootstrap page or to the README file. You're wearing. All right. So. Okay. So getting started. So there's 4 parts that typically you're going to load into your project if you're going to be using Bootstrap and the Bootstrap components. All right. Like right now, we're just using the grid system. We're just using the Flexbox parts that Bootstrap has kind of built into its CSS file. So we weren't using any JavaScript or any other jQuery or the 4th file, which is popper.js. We were just using the CSS. We're going to play a little bit around with some of the parts that use JavaScript. And right down below here, you can see on the README file, these are, if you're not going to be using one of these pieces, one of these components, you do not have to worry about bringing in the JavaScript pieces of Bootstrap. You can just simply use the CSS. You don't have to have all these pieces in there because it's just it'll slow down your site, and especially if you're going to download these files and not use the content delivery network, which we'll use on for jQuery and for Popper. You're going to use unnecessary space in your on your server as well. Again, everything the more files you get in there, the more files that get called, the more it's just going to slow down the latency of your website. All right, so we do have the JavaScript or the Bootstrap JavaScript downloaded into the assets folder. So I'm going to go back over to JS Code or to VSC, sorry, and down at the bottom, very bottom, right above the body tag, I'm going to type in script. I'm going to tab that out, and this is where we're going to put in our JavaScript. So we need to have a property in here of href, which is hypertext reference, or hyperlink, sorry. And so we're going to go back to our assets folder. Oop. Assets, JS. I'm not finding this correctly. It's not finding me. Oh, I'm sorry. I take that back. We're not using the hyperlink. We're using source. So HRC, sorry. That's going to make our, uh-oh. All right, so hopefully here we should see Bootstrap.js. All right. Make sure you have your dot in there. Jesse. I'm going to need that. All right, and then we're going to go back to our browser. We're going to go back to the Bootstrap page. And we're going to go to the home page. And we're going to go scroll down to where it says is Bootstrap CDN. And we're going to take the second two parts. So, or the first two parts, sorry. We're taking the jQuery and the Popper CDNs. We don't need the CDNs for the style sheet or the Bootstrap because we already put those into our, we have those embedded into our project already. Let's go back to our VS Code. And we're going to put these above so that they get read first. All right. So I'll have the JS query on top. I'm going to have the Popper JS file here. I'm going to have the Bootstrap on the bottom. Okay. So we're always going to have it in that order. Now, this is kind of the legacy way, I guess, to put it. A lot of people now will put them actually up into the head, but I was taught to do it down there, so that's why I put them. It still works that way. All right, so we're going to go up to the top of our sheet. All right, and we're going to put another container, okay? And we're going to do this one. We're going to go container fluid. And that's going to, all right, so container, if you go back to our, let me tab that out, have it out. So the container, back here to the README file. So container is, when we have our width on our very large page, it is only going to be able to go up to 1140 pixels wide. So it's going to, you know, it's going to be stuck at a certain point. Container fluid is our other container, and it works the same way as container, except that it goes the full 100% width of the screen. All right. So let's go. We'll do something real quick. Let's go over to back to Visual Studio Code. We'll show you what I mean. All right, so let's go. We'll just do PG dark, and we'll give that container fluid that attribute. Go ahead and save all, and then let's go back over to our. You know, before I switch, let me make sure that it's there. You know, it's not going to be there because we didn't give it any depth. All right, so we'll take that dummy row again that we had underneath. We'll just stick that in there for now. All right. Let's go switch on over. All right, now what you see is that top portion up here. This is our container fluid, that whole black strip. You can see it goes from screen edge to screen edge, all the way across. So that's what container fluid does. And conversely, right below here, you have the container, which goes from 1140 to 1140. So you can see how, depending on how you want your site to look, you're going to have, you know, different widths of, you know, different bases of what that content's going to look like. All right, so what I want to do here is I want to play a little bit. So we're going to go to Bootstrap page and clear out the prongs. Go to documentation again. We're going to go to components. We're going to click on carousel. Right, we're going to take, and this is either a slider or carousel. It's called different things. You can see it kind of working here. Okay. And we're going to go and we're going to take, let's take this one here. We're going to take the one with indicators. All right. And the code, the HTML code is all right here for us. So we're just going to copy that in. Go back to our Visual Studio Code. All right. And we're going to paste over that row. So all we have inside of that container fluid is now that carousel. I'm going to save right now. All right, so the one thing that we're going to have right now is we don't have a real carousel going because we don't have any images. So you're not going to see anything in there. All right, but I was thinking ahead, and in your asset file folder, you'll see images. So we're going to grab a couple images out of there. So assets, all right, we're going to go the source file for images. We go with the first one, and carousel inner, carousel item, source for in the image tag. So let's go to images, and let's start with a black rook. Okay. We're going to do that for all three going down. And we're going to go, so let's go rook. So the next space out from rook is knight. Do a black knight. Assets, images, then it's a bishop. And then, all right, so we have three spots here. All right, so we have 6 characters, if you will, that we're going to have on here. All right, so we're going to have to change up or modify this a little bit. All right, so we're going to first do, this is these divs here. We're going to take one of these small divs, so it's just the class carousel item. We're going to copy that, paste, paste, and paste. So we're going to now have 6 elements. So knight, bishop. So when we get to bishop again here, let's put in queen, king, and then the last one, because I forgot it in the first place, is put in the pawn. All right, so we have 6 images for our carousel. Now, one of the things we don't have is we only have 3 indicators. So now we have to add indicators because we have indicators on this particular one. We're just going to copy one line of the indicators. Oh. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 images. How many images do we have? Or 6 images? 1, 2, 3, 6. All right, 6 images, 6 indicators. Again, like an array, we're starting with 0. So let's go, we'll save, and let's jump over to our page. Let's refresh. Oh, whoa, we got big images here. Okay, so if you click on the arrows, it'll shift through. pretty big. Say the indicators are down here. You can also click on the indicators. So here's our king. All right, so what we have is, if we go back to our code, go to Visual Studio Code, what we have is this little bugger right there. So it's telling it to go to 100%, so it's pretty big in there, right? Now, one of the challenges is that when you shrink your images down based on this 100%, 75%, 50%, it's going to shrink down, and let's go to utility and sizes so I can show you exactly what I mean. This is on the Bootstrap page under utilities and sizing. I don't know if it's essentially what's happening is this. Okay, let me get my drawing out here. Here's your bottom left-hand corner. Bottom left-hand corner, bottom left-hand corner, bottom left-hand corner. So what's going to happen is, as it shrinks, the rest of the image is going to shrink down this way and fit into this corner. So your image that is now centered, because it's at 100%, is now, if we try to shrink it down to 25%, is only going to be in a quarter of our carousel area. It's not going to be in 100% of our spacing there. So we're going to have to figure out another way to do that. So let's try first to see if changing our width from the 100% to auto changes that up. So right now it's W100. Let's go back to our Visual Studio Code and change it to auto and see if that fixes our problem and kind of makes that a little bit more manageable. All right, so we have our 100. Let's make it auto. Copy this and paste over the rest. All right, so if you followed what I did, you'll see it shrank down a little bit, but it unfortunately did what we didn't want it to do. It went to that far side. All right, so let's see if we can't shrink this down, and I'm going to try to shrink this down in the grid system. So right now, the carousel is as wide as the fluid is as wide as the row. So let's cut it down. Let's put some columns in there and see if we can't shrink down the carousel to a size that is more appropriate for viewing. All right, so let's go back to our Visual Studio Code. All right, so we have we already took care of the row. So let's do this. We'll put the row back in. I'm going to put, let's make a column 6. Oops, I have to put my div in there. Because I didn't do it all the way. All right. So let's go and we'll take Let's do offset 3 so that we center it again. 6 plus 3 on each side is 12. Let's take the carousel itself. Cut, paste it inside of the column here. All right, and we already know we have a problem here, so let's get rid of the autos before we finish up and bring that back. Ooh, back to 100. You know what happened there? Let's save. And we go back to the web page. And now it's a little, at least it's a little bit more manageable. Everything's on one screen and it's set up. So we shrunk it down. It's the carousel is in 6 columns of width within our row, which is inside that fluid area. And you can kind of tell too that when you look down and kind of look at the difference in spacing here, and there's a little bit of a, I think will work well. So I would say we're probably somewhere in here is probably the edge of the actual carousel right there. So if you look down here, this is almost actually 10, because we have these 8, maybe 10 of a container wide on my particular screen, just to give you an idea of the difference in how the grids work in the fluid side and on the regular container size. All right. So that's how you kind of work a component. Now, let me clear out here, go back to my mouse. Let's go back over to the Bootstrap page. So as you could see, let's go back to, wrong button, components. So carousel, you'll see there are a couple of different examples of the carousels that Bootstrap has already put in here, whether you want captions, the controls, not how they fade in and out. You know, a little cool fading in of your images. You know, maybe they have different intervals. So this is all the JavaScript properties that you can kind of mess around with to change the look and feel of how the carousel works. And so this is just one component. So these are all the other components that they have in. So last week we used the cards. Cards are kind of, well, I guess you could kind of think of them as index cards. And the way that most people work them is you have the card and it's on a either darker background, or what they'll use is a shadow effect on the card to kind of make it look a little bit of, kind of have it show a little bit of depth, so it kind of sticks out a little bit. So let's go, we'll pick up, you guys didn't see this. So these elements that we did in the resume piece, this is a card element right here. And you can see kind of, it has that, with the darker background, it has a little bit of a shadow in there, and it would show up a little bit more if it wasn't the gray background, but it gives a little bit of depth to the information, kind of makes it stand out a little bit more. So what you'll find is a lot of people are using that on their websites these days, a lot of cards. We used definitely the navigations. So And there's tons and tons of different examples that they have on their page. And then you can go and Google all the different menus that people have modified that are based on these. So again, all you have to do for yourself is just copy this base code, because as long as you have the CSS already set up and or linked in, and the JavaScript files already linked in, all you're going to do is just paste that HTML code in, and it's going to work exactly how it works here on their website. So if you want some, a search function in there, search function you have to hook up. But here's some links. There's one with a drop down. Oh, here's a hamburger menu, as I call it. Search, drop down links. This is the active one. These are the inactive ones. Hovering, stuff like that. We also use progress bars on the resume website, although we did not use the ones from Bootstrap. We just kind of built them ourselves from the CSS that I stole from a different site. But you can if you wanted to have stripes on there, on those progress bars, buttons. Right, we're going to be talking about buttons here in the next block when we talk about JavaScript. To get your stuff working. Again, all you have to do is you copy this particular line, and we'll just stick it right into our Visual Studio Code. I'm going to stick it down the bottom. And I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to show you. I'm going back to that file. So there's the button. I just stuck it right on the bottom. And it's already styled exactly how it was on the page there. I could have changed it to one of those, or I could change it up to this here. And of course, you can always change the colors to meet the schemes. You just override it in your own CSS with that important declaration. All right. So, but here's a quick little overview of Bootstrap, at least get you going on the grids. So what I'd like to do now is do a little bit of JavaScript, some programming, some crazy stuff, and hopefully we can get this to work without a hitch. So if you scroll down on, this is going back to the README file. All right. Oh, I also put down some, so one of the things that we talked about last week that Jonathan and Robert, you guys missed, was that we talked about expanding out our resume page and building out our own personal sites. So down here, these are some of the sites that I kind of checked out over the past week that people thought were great. So besides David's from yesteryears of ACM. Yeah, well, not only for like our page, but for you. So let's open up this guy's page here. I think this is so this guy is a freelancer, right? And this is kind of like his calling card, if you will, if you think about it. So if you put down your resume, or you have recruiters that are looking at you. Oh man, it's getting dark. Turn on my light. So if you have guys looking at you, recruiters, or the company that you're looking at, they're always going to do their background checks. They're always going to end up checking your for your LinkedIn profile, for your Facebooks, all those things, to make sure you're not some type of white supremacist or something like that, you know, or some or Nazi or, you know, crazy communist. Well, I don't know. Crazy communist might get you a job. I'm not sure, but you know, one of the non-likables. So this guy put together his nice little work here. He has a little blog going on, all his links. He has a link to his resume right here. So he actually embedded his resume right on in there. He has a link to his portfolio. I like the way he did his portfolio. He has a nice little timeline in here. And then kind of a link to the sites that he built or the apps that he has going on. Yeah. So, you know, just kind of, you know, something that not only gives you an opportunity to be a little bit of, you know, of an individual, but also to kind of highlight your abilities and, you know, in order to stand out above the crowd. You know what I mean? So yeah, if you click through, you know, oh, I think this one was cool. So it doesn't really have a whole lot of links to anything but you have to destroy the page first. So it gives you a little gun. So even gives you a leaderboard, see where you stack up with everyone else. Oh man, I did okay, I guess. Some nice little discussion boards. So, and you can even tweet out your score from her page, which is kind of cool. I just thought this was kind of a, you know, nice little bit of different, little bit of different, little bit of different thing than just say, you see, I can't. She does have a hamburger menu up here, so you can actually go in and, you know, you know, kind of cool the way it's styled in, kind of how the animation comes in and stuff. And you kind of hover over, and it then gives you links. Not only to that, but it tells you, you know, everything that you did to build it out. You know, so again, just, you know, ideas of how to make yourself stand out, you know, above everyone else. All right, so let's go back. So right above all these personal website links, we get a couple programming challenges. Nothing too big. These are my first year JavaScript from SAC. These were like my first 3 JavaScript problems that at the time I thought was like crazy, and now I'm like, are you serious? That's all I had to do. So let's copy this up right here. Let's see if we can't figure out what we need to do. This is a pretty easy one. I think you've probably done this at least in programming 1 in Java or some other language. So let's go back to Visual Studio Code. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take this and I'm going to erase all this. You guys can save a new one. I already have this saved in another file over here. So, right. And what I'm going to do in my body is I'm going to type out script in the script tag. So the script tag says that we are now in a programming language. We are no longer in HTML. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I copy that just so I can remember what I'm doing. I'm going to take and do a meta tag just so you know what it looks like. I'm going to go to description. So that should be when Google comes and searches my website, that's the description that should come up in the little thing. All right, Jonathan. All right, so now we just have to write out that we're going to have a script that does this. All right, so JavaScript, we kind of works, or it's not a full object-oriented language. It's more towards this kind of a scripting language, but above a scripting language now. It's kind of somewhere stuck in the middle. So, but suffice it to say, we can use classes or we can use functions. We don't have anything outside of those two pieces to work with. We don't have integers. We don't have, you know, we don't have enumerations. We don't have structures. This is what we have. So we're just going to start with a little func. Let's say, call it find odd. Okay. So nothing major. So we're going to read an integer and determine if it's a odd or even. So pretty simple. All right. So one of the things that we have to take into account, much like every other language, is we're going to take in a string. Okay. So, and again, in JavaScript, we don't have, we don't have integers, we don't have doubles, we have numbers, we have strings, and that's it. So it makes it kind of easy. So, and we have three ways to tell what a variable / constant is. We have the var identifier, we have the constant, the con. We have the constant, and then we have, we're not doing HTML, sorry. And we have let. All right, so of course, variable is or var is variable, and the other two are constants. We're not going to use those. So we're going to use this as a variable, and we're just going to initialize it here. Make sure that we have that, okay? So the other thing we're going to use is, right, and that's going to be our number now because we initialized it with a number. So we'll take string.
I have a quick question real quick.
Yes.
You said that there are only two data types for variables, just numbers and strings?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, that's it.
Yep. Nothing, no integers, no doubles, no floats, no. Makes life easy, kind of, or it makes it really hard depending on what you're trying to do. If it makes sense, So because it's not a fully object-oriented programming language like Java. All right, Java and JavaScript are not the same. They have nothing in common outside that they are both trademarked by Oracle. That's where, so they developed Java. So Java was supposed to be like the programming language for the web. So, so early on in the mid 90s, so 95 when Java was developed, what happened is you had to start loading Java onto your computers to get certain websites to work correctly. So they actually use Java itself to do the front end programming and the back end programming of the first dynamic websites. Yes.
And you said that Java originally was supposed to be like the primary web development language?
Well, that's kind of, sort of.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It was like a meta.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I see what you
So,
mean.
so I don't know if it wasn't necessarily developed specifically for that, but that was the first ideas. But the people at Netscape, which is now Mozilla, Firefox guys, they kind of went back to Java and like, hey, what if we kind of did something in between, because what you're trying to do with Java is really heavy, and it's more than what we need it to do. We don't need all of this oomph here. We just need to be able to do certain things. So they came up. The first JavaScript was, kind of a mix of, some basic scripting language and a little bit of object-oriented programming. Not a whole lot of much of any of it, and that's how it kind of developed. Now, because they had developed Java, Oracle that is, for kind of, to be that, kind of web programming language, when they decided to go towards JavaScript, or this new scripting language, I think it was LiveScript was the original name for it. They decided that they would market it as JavaScript because that's how people were thinking Java was that, that web. I needed to run this website for some reason. So they because again, Oracle owned JavaScript, so they trademarked it as JavaScript.
Yeah, so many programming names influenced by marketing, right?
Yes, yeah, it's all it was is marketing. Because really, it's I can't even remember. You can go in it's ES6. It's something script. It's not even JavaScript. The real name isn't really even JavaScript if you're being technical, but everyone calls it JavaScript. But there's like, Adobe has a variant called ActionScript, which is a lot of, kind of the same syntax that they use now with Animate, which is the follow-on to Flash.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they've changed a lot of things over the years.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So we have this, we have that. All right. So how are we going to get our information in? Okay. So we're going to, let's go back to the README file. I have all this cool stuff in here. And we're going to do a window. We're going to do a window prompt. So it's down here and under the windows. And all it is a window prompt, message, and default. All right. So what we're going to want to do, I hope I can remember how to do this right, because it's been a couple days. I've been using far more Angular and React than just vanilla JavaScript, as they call it. Window prompt. All right, so our message, say, so we need to enter an integer. Okay, and I'm going to comma that out, and I believe I put string here. All right, so let's Oh, I might have, this might have to be in quotes. Let's see if this works. Oh, you know what? I know what we're going to do. Before we go, this is a better way. Your string.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was wondering about, actually.
Yeah. All right, so let's save. We'll go over here to the window. So we're going to go. All right, so I did not get my prompt right up. All right. Change some stuff up here because I think we're going to need this because I messed this up. Because again, it's been a little while. I should be following my notes more closely. And script type and make sure we're doing JavaScript. And my notes tell me I don't need a function on this one, so I'm going to take the function out. We're just going to go straight down the script. Okay. All right. What am I sharing? Am I sharing? All right. So this is my page.
Cool.
So enter an integer. So I'm going to enter 3, and right now nothing happens.
Yeah.
Because we don't have any more code there. All right. So I'm going to go all right, back to our JS code.
Do you want me to type along, or
You
do I
can type
just
along if you want. That way you can even put it at the bottom of your current page.
Okay.
All right. So after the string, all right. So we input our string. So what do we know? We want to know if the number is odd or even. So what has to happen to that string?
Condition?
We have to make it into a number.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right. Now, when I said that JavaScript doesn't know ints or doubles, well, it kind of does, but it doesn't. Because it does have, oh, sorry, num equals, does have the parse int command, just like Java does. So we'll parse that string input as an int. So now that number is an int. All right. So now we have to figure out if it's odd or even. How do we do that? You know how to do that, Jesse?
Or even. We got it as a number. I would use modulus, right? Am I good? I'm good. All right, cool.
Which modulus?
I think it's the percentage. So maybe num percentage 2 equal to 0, something like that.
No, just mod 2, y2.
Oh, because you're trying to find the remainder, and if it's 0 or 1, that's how you find out if it's even or odd.
Exactly. Perfect. All right. So because it's even or odd, we're going to do an if statement. And we'll do just like you said. Mod 2. So if it's mod 2, well, what does that happen? Well, we have something left that should be an odd number, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, 0 or 1. Gotcha. Boolean. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So this one, so the first one, if should be odd. So we're going to have to go back, and if you go back to the README file, there's a document.write, which is going to allow me to, and this is another function, it's an embedded Java function, and this allows me to put stuff in HTML, into the HTML file. So what we're going to do is, because we're going HTML, let's do H1, all right, in quotes, plus, and we have our variable, and
Can I do for loops in JavaScript?
yep, that one right there, right?
I could do all kinds of stuff
Yes.
with that.
And then we'll close out the H1. Okay, so we have that. All right, so of course, we're also going to have an else. This is an if else, really. So we'll just copy this down. It's just going to be the same thing, except for this time it's going to be even. If I'm not mistaken. We'll find out real quick, right, when we test it?
Yeah, we'll find out what happens.
All right, so we'll save this. All right, I'm going to go back to my home page.
Okay, else, gotcha.
Oh, you need to see?
No, I got it. I understand the code enough to do it on my own.
Okay.
And then, I'm doing it with one hand right now.
Ah, still bothering
Yeah,
you.
I overused the one of them.
All right, so we'll highlight or we'll refresh. So I have my integer. So let's do 7. And oh, look at that. 7's an odd number. Of course, my styling on here isn't great, but we could change that up a little bit. Yeah, I still have CSS on there. So I'm going to go back and
Let's see if that runs. I did my own little custom.
yeah.
Should be. Don't go rogue. Yes, it worked. Well, I'm happy.
All right, so I'm going to go do container fluid. Do a row.
That was satisfying.
Do Carl. I'm going to go center or text center. I'm going to grab my script. I'm going to stick it into this spot. So I just wrapped my script in a column, and a row, and a container. My column is with the attribute text center, so that it centers itself. So I'm going to see what happens.
You put the script in there, right?
Yeah, and the script is embedded into the column area.
Row and then column.
So it's probably just going to show this top of the page. But uh-oh, that did not look right.
I gotta see yours now. You're laughing.
You don't see anything. It's blank.
Uh, uh,
All right. F12 and see if Oh, is it? Is it just underneath my? Oh, it's underneath my Zoom stuff. Oh, okay. Never mind. It was blocked from all the Zoom stuff I have on there. Okay. So that's just a simple one. Nice and easy.
Yeah. Very cool.
So I mean, so so when you, I'm gonna. Oh, actually, I probably should just. So on the README file, there's two other ones. So this one is just, number two is just an easy encryption thing. All right, so this one works a little bit different because in order to input, you're probably going to have to use a form. So the HTML tag form, and you can research that on the Bootstrap page because it's all in there. It's already nice and styled for you.
Yeah, we'll do some black boxing. That's cool.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, this one, if you use an array to break up the the string that comes in, those 4 digits, going to be a string comes in. So if you split the string, I think it's just dot split is the string dot split. I want to say that's what the command is. But then you take the 4 and you stick them in an array, and then you can, and it's easier to reorder everything too. And then the third one is best served with a switch. You can even do switches in JavaScript.
Yeah. Conditions, loops. Just those two are pretty powerful.
Yeah.
And then document writing. Wow.
So right above here, here's some additional resources, bunch of tutorials, all free.
Code Academy. I'd do that one.
Yeah. Free code camp. I like this more than Code Academy. It's a little bit better structure, I think. Code Academy, their IDE just, it drives me bananas. So
What was the word you used? I don't know what's up with my sound today. Banana before bananas.
Oh, their IDE.
Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, oh, I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just,
when it's all you know, it's all gravy though.
Yeah. Yeah, but and the way that, so I'll click on this. So the way that they're set up is you just go, oh, I don't know why it took us here. View this curriculum, okay. So this is kind of how their curriculum's set up. So there's basically 300 hours of responsive web design. There's 28 lessons of just basic HTML and all that stuff. And then,
okay, that's pretty cool.
And then you can get into and get crazy with, doing some stuff that you did in programming 3, and maybe some of the stuff that you might see in algorithms.
And it has an IDE on the right and a lessons on the left, like that kind of format?
I don't remember if it's, yeah.
I hope so. Wow. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's my favorite type of learning right there.
Yeah, so.
Good stuff.
Yeah, this one doesn't yell at you as much as the Code Academy one does. You just do, you like type something just slightly wrong, or you paste it in and it doesn't recognize, it just drives me bananas.
I think that's a little too low for you. Like you're already on the higher end of a developer. Because Code Academy, I think, is more for beginners and intermediate, I believe.
Yeah, well, I mean, but there's still a lot of stuff in there that you can go through and learn. So they got they get some API stuff in here. So how to use Node and Express, how to use packages within npm, some mongoose stuff, and some MongoDB. So mongoose.js is the library for JavaScript that is supposed to work well with Mongo. It's supposed to. I haven't heard great things about it. Although I heard a new version's out and it actually works better.
Yeah.
And so, like APIs. Talking
Sweet.
more, going in the mean stack and stuff like that. So
that coding interview stuff looks, wow. Damn. Oh, I actually know some of that stuff. All right.
Create a map structure.
Yeah, I learned that in Fundamentals 3.
Yeah, the searches and stuff. And then all these stuff you'll learn well, no, you did queues and stacks and priority. You did basic stuff in 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Some linked lists.
Yep.
We did more trees.
Yep.
And we did more heap sorts, or min heap, max heaps. And then we did, what else did we do? Oh, we did dynamic programming and other stuff in algorithms. It'll be fun for you. Do they want you to take that as an undergrad or just as a grad?
No, they did not for CISA, but for the graduate, yeah. But I'm a little bit afraid. I'm a little bit cautious.
Okay.
But yeah, you're like the third person to say you're gonna like algorithms, Jesse. I'm like, why do you say that?
So you can inquire with Dr. Lee because he's the coordinator for it.
Yeah.
He's the Dr. Lodger for the master's program.
Yeah.
Is talk to him about, if your deal is if you're going to graduate after and go right into the master's program, whether you take the algorithms now, and if you take it at the 500 level now instead of waiting. Because it's the same class.
The 500 level now?
Yeah, it's the same class. So see if, or if they want to do it,
Why would I take it early though?
Well, if you take it, so it's the same class, so you're going to repeat the same class.
Oh, but I've never taken algorithms before.
I know, I understand. So if you take algorithms with Dr. Yang, you're going to be sitting in there with master's students.
Right, exactly.
So when you take it as a master's student, you're going to be sitting in there with undergrads doing the same stuff that you did as a undergrad.
Is that better or worse?
I'm just saying. It might be better because you should get an A the second time around, I think.
Oh, so you're saying I should take algorithms before algorithms to make sure I pass?
Well, if they're going to make you take algorithms as an undergrad, as a requirement.
Yeah, not yet. But they're going to make me take algorithms in the graduate. And that's what I'm super cautious about because I'm going to be with a bunch of computer science majors,
Yeah. Well, no, who's in there? Who's the CISA guy in there right now? God. Michael.
Oh, so I'm not going to be the first one. That makes it better.
No, let me.
We could talk after the recording.
Okay. Yeah. You guys got any questions? Where's my chat window? Robert, you still with us? Okay. Say hello to your sister, by the way, too, Robert. I haven't chatted. I haven't chatted with her for a little bit. She's always asking me, "Hey, did you put this out?" I've been trying to be real good with the May Center, so I'm trying. All right, I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna stop sharing, and I'm gonna stop recording.